Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nines by AT&T. I'm DDK, your host for today's episode, your very Valorant-y episode. And if you don't know who I am, I'm a commentator of Valorant, CSGO, Quake, and I used to be a pro player once upon a time, but it's not really relevant anymore. Today, I'll have an amazing series of guests, all Cloud9, of course, but some very interesting individuals to follow along the discussion as we talk about Masters. I've got myself, Mel, and Alexis from Cloud9 White. And we've also got Xeppaa from Cloud9 Blue. So how are you all doing to start things off with? We've got a lot to talk about.
Doing good. Woke up on the right side of the bed this morning. Woke up excited to be here.
Doing great. My neck hurts a little bit. Slept wrong, but yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
It's always really fun doing these kinds of shows because I mean we're all just nerds of Valorant, so there's just I feel like I make all these show notes. I've shared the show notes with everybody on the show, and I feel like we're probably going to just go massively off course, but we'll see if we can stick to the topics that I've set. Because one of the biggest ones that I want to talk about is we've just come off the back of the biggest tournament, most groundbreaking tournament we've had in Valorant so far. It's answered a lot of questions, so I wanted to get the thoughts of all of you on some of the action that we've seen and some of the teams that have been playing, the regions, the meta. It's so much to dive into. And to begin with, I think that I just want to leap straight into this. We had this huge NA versus EU battle that was going on. It went back and forth so many times. I myself, studying some of the VODs, I was thinking, okay, EU are better one week, NA are better another week, and it just seems to be so hard to kind of place it. But we had somewhat of a definitive answer. So the first thing I want to sort of feel to you guys, question-wise, is do we feel like Masters 2 gave us answers or more questions in terms of who is the best region? And anyone can take this. It's open to everybody.
Oh, okay. I'll go. Well, I think I'd say both. I mean, definitely the first major tournament, NA just came out on top. I'm pretty sure like the beginning of the tournament, a lot of teams weren't using Astra, and I think that was like a big problem. And I think now that people have a feel for each region, I think like the next tournament it's gonna be a lot better, a lot more competitive.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I'm going to direct this straight to you, Mel, very quickly because I want to find out whether or not you actually feel like when you're like going into Masters, whether you felt like NA was better than EU. Because for me, again, this was something where a lot of NA people that I was talking to, a lot of players actually felt like EU was superior, played the game more correctly. But obviously, on paper versus the reality is always a different story.
Yeah, going into it, I definitely, like 2 weeks out, I definitely thought like EU was going to be like the better region, but not by like much. I just think they're more fundamentally and tactically sound. But like there was a gap obviously between like the qualifier like week and then like the actual tournament. And when I noticed that EU just did not pick up Astra whatsoever when the actual tournament happened, I was like, they're losing this tournament. There's just no way. And I actually talked to Sliggy the other day talking about like the Astra difference in EU, and they actually thought they had Astra figured out. Like the Astras in EU were pretty weak compared to like what they actually played up against in Masters, and they were actually taken off guard because they're like, oh, we had counters for Astra because we were playing as bad Astras, but when we went to like the world stage, we were playing against such better Astras that we were actually the ones getting punished for it. So they actually went into it expecting it, but just got demolished by the Astra IMO.
Are you on the same page with all this, Alexis?
Oh, absolutely. You kind of have to play Astra right now. She's way too strong to miss out on that. 100%.
Do you think that, because I've heard some state that this meta is kind of like the most boring one because of Astra? Are you vibing with that as well? Do you want to see changes to Astra, or do you want to see or what do we need to actually answer that? Can that be answered without a patch changing agents, or like what are we looking at?
I think people have like commented on like different changes that could help Astra. I think the double controller isn't boring. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like less exciting because of all the smokes and walls with Viper and Astra. It's kind of, I don't know. It's not boring, but it's definitely different than what we were playing before with like double duelists and one controller with Omen. But I think people have definitely commented on some good changes, like not allowing her to use her abilities like the first second that the walls drop, and um increasing like cooldown times as well. I think those are good options to change her.
Definitely. It's definitely so hard to kind of pinpoint. Zephyr, do you have like thoughts on this as well?
Well, I came into the game like a month and a half ago, but I didn't start scrimming until like 2 weeks ago. And I mean, people were telling me I came into the game on like the worst time because Astra and Viper are like the worst meta, and it's like it was like really hard to get into the game. So I mean, yeah, no, I really hope they nerf Astra because her ability is really broken. Like Alexis said, like she's able to do so much in the beginning of the round, and she can place any star, do anything like across the map. So I really hope they nerf Astra and nerf the judge.
Dude,
Yeah,
yes. Oh my god.
man,
That is so broken.
I've lost faith at this point in nerfs for Jet or the judge. I'm just accepting it. I'm moving to acceptance.
Dude, how can the judge exist? The gunplay is already broken, and then you pair it with Jet or Raze, it's even more busted. A Raze can be full double satchelating at you mid-air Quake style, and they insta kill you. Like, how is that fair? How is that even a good gunplay? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be at least like raise the cost or something. But you know, I don't want to entertain like how should we change the judge? What can we do? Because if I do that, I feel like we're giving hope. I feel like we need to just
That's true,
accept
Copium.
that we just need to accept and move on with our lives. Speaking of which, you know, Xeppaa, as you mentioned, you know, and for those watching very quickly, we'll get into a lot of the nitty gritty with Xeppaa coming into Valorant as we kind of get towards the end of the show. But you know, very quickly, as you mentioned, you have just jumped in and for me, actually, as someone who had played loads of Valorant and was familiar with all of the agents, Astra was actually very confusing to begin with to kind of be up against. But besides Astra, what's been some of the more kind of finicky, difficult adjustments coming from CS:GO for you that you've been kind of challenged with so far?
It's definitely the pace of the game, I think. I mean, obviously, like I just started like a month and a half ago, and it's like obviously the abilities are like the biggest change to the game, and like the pace and people play, like at least like people tell me it's like a lot different in scrims. Like people are like, just holding W everywhere, but like in matches is like the opposite. So I mean that's expected, but definitely the pace of the game on like how people play.
Yeah, and I think the pacing's a really interesting one too, especially at the top level. Like I feel like the pro teams are really starting to like really get to grips of how to really abuse it the most. And you know, Sentinels is definitely a team that I feel like they do a lot of the basics super well. They, you know, going back to Masters 2, they won Masters 2. Do you would all of you describe their style as kind of puggy and sort of leaning on the individual play? Because that's kind of how most people describe it. Do you think that's a fair assessment of what Sentinels are doing, or do you think that's a bit too reductionist?
I wouldn't say puggy is like the word. I would just say aggressive. Like I feel like that's sort of the NA play style. It's just like very aggressive, very confident play style versus like the very methodical play style of EU. So I think maybe they weren't so prepared for that, but I think aggressive would be a better word than puggy.
I think it's more of the fact too that each of the players on Sentinels can individually think for themselves instead of like relying on their IGLs all the time. And I think they're not they're confident and they're always wanting to make plays, and they're not scared to do anything. So I think that's like, I mean, those five, like they said, their togetherness is like perfect, and the chemistry is just off the charts right now.
You know what? I love that point, and I'm going to continue to veer in that direction a little bit. That thing you just mentioned, Zephyr, about sort of being able to think for yourself, it's already happening. We're already going far off of the show notes with this, but in terms of like thinking of yourself, I remember speaking to Shazam a long time ago, and he was talking about this. You know, coming from CS, where a lot of teams did play like quite structured, and they try to sort of copy paste that into Valorant. Shazam actually realized pretty early on, and he said on one of these shows that, hey, you know, it's about being able to think for yourself,
Yeah.
and it's about being the right amount of loose. Of course, you have game plans. Of course, you understand, you know, the tells that the other team might have and how to respond to it. But it's about having five players that can think for themselves. And
Yeah.
and for me, you know, this seems like the hardest change actually from a CS traditional CS team to a Valorant team. Is that accurate? Do you think?
Well, I think CS is all the top teams are like that. They individually can think for themselves. Like you can say EU is like more methodical, but like I think like the top teams all, like play a very loose style and like all can like think for themselves. I think yeah, just in general any FPS game, I think you can't rely on your IGL telling you what to do all the time. It's definitely like your whole team have to like individually be good and always think for themselves. I mean, yeah, the IGL should, set a pace or like, like call like the beginning of the round, but it shouldn't like, have to be like rely on him all the time.
and we will have some great examples later in the show, because as a quick tease, as we get through some of the Master 2 discussion, what I want to dive into is the VOD review tool that Cloud9 uses. That's going to be really exciting. So we'll actually see some actual examples of this demonstrated on the show, and we'll talk through it with that action as we review those VODs. But moving on to more discussion points, I think it's an interesting one to also mention version 1, because version 1 did really well, and it's kind of bittersweet for me because they went into Masters 2 with the standard. They finished 5th for those that aren't familiar with some of the placings. Version 1 finished 5th, but they played extremely well. They had great results and looked very competitive. And we walked in with a stand-in. They managed to claim a spot above an Envy or another team that maybe would be more expected to claim that. In fact, Cloud9 Blue looks like they were really gunning for that spot, and version 1 defeated them, and they narrowly lost the Sentinels. So it's like version 1 kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people. Like, what are the thoughts here on version 1 and their performance from all of you?
I mean, for me, I have a pretty good expectation because I play with Vanity, so I know how he does things, and definitely like I wouldn't say like for me they definitely weren't the underdogs in my eyes. Like I expected them to do this, and if they were playing with Whippy, I think they could have made it further, obviously. But yeah, I think for me they played great, and like if they had Whippy, they could have gone further.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like there were some elements where you could tell that they were playing with the stand-ins, so they weren't as tight on some of the anti-eco protocols and some of these more guaranteed rounds that you kind of expect a team that's able to drill would just have those just very like easily kind of down in their repertoire. But yeah, Mal, Alexis, has any comments on version 1 and what you saw from them? Impressed, not impressed? Things to steal?
They just looked really good. I remember watching the first day and they looked a bit shaky versus Crazy Raccoons, who also, by the way, like insane team. Like all their games were just so close, and I feel like people aren't even giving the credit that CR deserves. But anyway, we're not talking about CR. But version 1 played really, really well. A little shaky on the first day that I watched, but after that, I was like so impressed by how they were playing the games, especially with the stand-in.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely took me by surprise. I remember we were all watching like the V1 Liquid game together, like our team, and we were not expecting them to do as well as they did for sure.
If there's like one thing that sort of they were doing really well, like if you could characterize their play, like, what would it actually be? Would it be like the individual skill, or sort of just the ability to just adjust on the fly? Or like, what was that sort of X factor you think that version 1 had going for them to make them look so competitive?
I think it's a combination of you go.
No, you go first. You go first. You got this.
I was say I think it's a combination of everything, individual mid-round calls, Vanity has a good head on his shoulders where, he's very good at taking people like unknown players, FEs, Penny, like these people who don't have the experience to play, and he's really good at, making like people like me or Leaf, when we first joined the team, like really good players. But it's definitely like individual, like, learning for them to like think for themselves. Like I said, it's a big important thing for the game. Just everything, I think.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like adaptability,
go
like
ahead.
to the meta. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. The like adaptability to the meta and how quickly they were to integrate it for Masters also like helped them a ton. Honestly, Vanity, like his Astra is actually insane.
Yeah, Vanity is definitely like very impressive. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else he can do now that they will have their full roster back. And man, some of the pains of COVID and everything, but at least we're having LANs again, so hopefully they'll be able to field their full team in the following competitions, because
I
they're
can't
definitely
wait.
dangerous.
I can't wait till they nerf the judge and then Vanity can't shoot anybody else. It's gonna be a good time.
It is actually quite absurd. I know we're getting back onto the judge right now, but it is kind of insane how there is a way to play that weapon on like every map, even a map like Icebox. You can you can find spots for it everywhere, more or less. It's pretty disgusting. But anyway, we've got to move on. I don't want to get stuck on the judge. We're going to come back to it, I'm sure. But Nuturn, another team that, of course, surprised a lot, and coming out of Korea, we know, of course, that some of the Asian teams have a lot of like really cool stuff. We've been, of course, Vision Strikers were the first team that really showed off their tactical approach to the game. That was pretty mind blowing what they were coming up with. But it was hard to always say. It's hard to say at all whether or not it would translate in against a region like North America or Europe, some of these more known regions. But Nuturn did really well, and I've heard from a lot of people that they were the team to kind of steal tactics from. So kind of we did see stuff that no other teams had been doing from them. So what was holding them back, do you think? Because they definitely when I was watching them, I was like, this team is definitely tactically better than I think probably every team that they've played against. Was it individual skill, or is it something else, do you think, that was holding them back from doing better? And they did get top 4, so they did pretty damn well.
I remember watching their Bind game versus Sentinels, and just looking at the comp matchup, I was like, okay, actually, despite like popular opinion, I think Nuturn actually has a really good comp going into this. They have double mobility duelist, so raise Jet. So while they're running like Viper on Sentinel side, having those agents to kind of like brute force the util and get in front of it is really good. And you could see like moments of brilliance where they were trying to, that's what they were trying to execute, but they just were not following up with like the kills that they really needed, I think. At least from what I watched.
See, I can't tell you much because I didn't see any other games.
Well, spoilers, we're going to be watching in the VOD review tour, we're going to watch Nuturn versus version 1, so you'll get to see a few rounds at least later on. Before I move on, anything on that, Alexis, as well? Did you enjoy Nuturn's games?
No, same thing as Mo said. They have like the counter to like the Viper utility and the Ashe utility, which is double mobility, but they didn't really follow through with it. So
Dude, I was so excited too because if you actually look, Nuturn beat I was gonna say Game Changers. Why can't Vision Strikers? Sorry, I asked if they beat Game Changers. They actually beat Vision Strikers on binds, and they were running pretty much like the exact same comp as Sentinels, of course, without the Reyna. And you could see that they had a game plan for this heavy util comp, like what's in meta right now for bind. Like they had a game plan, but like I said, I just think it's the execution of it because I vividly remember a round where they breach ulted up short, raise Jet flying in, and then they get into U-Haul and they die to Zombs who's full breach ulted. I was like, dude, you need that kill. Like that's such a free kill. But just stuff like that, I could see like a lot of potential in that game.
Yeah, it's for me, it was really difficult because I felt like if they had more experience as well against some of the ways that NAU kind of plays the game, maybe they would have been a bit more comfortable. But do you guys think that's a factor at all? Because obviously, like, going into this, every region is used to playing only their region, really. Even if one region is kind of taking stuff from watching VODs of another region, it's still like going to be a style you're familiar with playing against, if it's NA versus NA, or just playing within your own region. And it's going to be players you're familiar with too. So I was wondering when I was watching, if, because as you're a pro player, you'll play against certain teams enough, and you'll know that TenZ is more likely to repeat this spot than another spot. You'll kind of have that sense. Do you think that that's an advantage that, or rather a disadvantage, Nuturn had going into this as well?
yeah, I think so. I think you could say that about even your own region. Like if you play a team a bunch and you scrim them a bunch, like okay, this player does this like 6 times a game. Like you can narrow it down to that much. And I think that it's definitely true like from region to region. Like you can kind of get reads on certain players and it gives you an advantage. So going into like a LAN, it's definitely harder to pick up on that right away.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And, I have to ask, going out, from this tournament and the results that we saw, can we definitively answer anything about who is the best region, who has the best meta? Is the way that Sentinels are playing the game, is it the most optimal, or are they missing a lot? Do we have a sense for this yet, or is it like way too early?
I feel like the games were so close that it's like hard to definitively say like there is one best region. Like the games were so close. Like it's very hard to determine that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember watching Shaz like the other day talking about like the region like stack up, and even he was like, you can't really pull too much from like regional like these of like the turn of like the results. You can't really pull too much from it because everything was pretty much so close. Although I would say like Sentinel's obviously the best team in the world, but like in terms of regions, I think it was like NA, EU, and Brazil are really close. Even though I feel like Brazil just didn't have like the best showing that we thought they would have, I think those 3 regions are still really close, and obviously like, including Korea. And then there's like a little gap in between those 4 top regions and like the rest, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of this. I mean, plus the meta is gonna constantly change, so like you're gonna see different play styles, and people are gonna adapt and learn more, and just and then after that, just the regions are gonna be like very competitive, and it's never gonna be the same. and can't always say NA or EU is gonna be on top. At least like in CS, like EU's EU, and then it's always NA. But like in this game, just there's metas unlike CS, and things are gonna change constantly. So
It's so awesome to see too, honestly. Having like 4 competitive regions,
yeah,
that's just insane, dude. Asia is like, I don't think I see too much like Asian representation in CS:GO, and it's something I've always wanted to see. And to see Korea kind of like swinging out the gates in the first international LAN, that makes me so happy, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to follow, and I do wonder if anyone's ever going to pull ahead. Like I'm just so curious because I feel like we've never had this. I think you're totally right. Like there's always been some kind of reason why it's mostly just been Europe and North America, and even if you're from Brazil, like you kind of have to go to one of these two regions to realistically be able to compete. So it's I feel like we're stepping into so much new territory. Super exciting. And with that said, I do want to be mindful of time because I want to make sure that we kind of maximize our time with the VOD review tool, which we'll get into in a moment. But in terms of like takeaways personally for each of you from Masters 2, like what are some like what are the most positive takeaways, the things that you enjoyed seeing the most?
definitely my boy Vanity shining bright in the stage, and that's about it.
I think that tournament is honestly overall like uplifting the floor of just practice for all these regions. Cause I've even honestly like our recent scrims, like the past couple weeks, I'm like recognizing things. I'm like, dude, I Fnatic's doing that. This is what a Fnatic comp they're running. Fnatic defaults, like people are like taking so much away from the event. You can literally feel it in game. You can feel people taking Fnatic stuff, Team Liquid stuff, Nuturn stuff. I think literally the other day in a scrim, this team was running Fnatic's pistol against us, and I was like, this is Fnatic's pistol, dude. I'm gonna walk up short. Like what? I know exactly what they're doing. So it's just really funny to see how like it seems like all the scrims and like all the teams are taking away a lot from this tournament.
I think for me, like my favorite part of watching the tournament was just seeing like NA dominate. Honestly, like even V1 was just pooping on kids, dude. Like Sentinels is such a good team, and I'm so happy that NA is like winning everything right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a great story because Sentinels have like I felt like we had that, Sentinels, TSM. We had like a lot of big teams, but Sentinels have remained the only like super consistent team now. I feel like and super rewarding. I think for everyone who's been a fan of their gameplay. I have to throw in one question before we get into the VOD review tool because I think it's another thing that's unique to Valorant and we kind of talked about it already. The meta, it changes constantly. Like we get new agents in, we get patches that change quite a lot, like fairly frequently. When new maps come in as well, obviously that's a big deal too. Is it exhausting to play in a game where the meta changes so frequently? Do you feel like you have to put in so much time, or does it feel like really manageable? Because I gotta understand how you guys anticipate. Because from the outside, sometimes it looks like it has to be exhausting.
I mean, for me, I haven't played the game for that long, so I mean, it's been only one meta for me. But I think it's really easy to adapt. I mean, I can't say for other players, but for me, like I feel real comfortable like just changing all the time.
I think it brings like some fun to the game to have to like change your play style and change what you're doing to adapt. I think the only like downside is like if you're playing an agent you really like and then they get nerfed and you like literally can't play them anymore because they're no longer in the meta, that's probably like the worst part. But besides that, it's definitely like fun compared to like CS that we have like a meta that changes constantly.
Yeah, like it's like a breath of fresh air. And it may seem like kind of exhausting. I think like from an IGL standpoint, I think it's definitely a lot of work. You constantly have to like come up with new solutions because people are constantly making like new solutions to other solutions from like 2 layers ago or like 2 metas ago. And I think what helps a lot though is when you have like 5 people in the team, and it makes it so much easier because each person is like hyper aware of their role and their agent, how to maximize their agent and playing the head to head in game. So it's like 5 people coming together to come up with solutions. It's just way easier, honestly. So it's just really fun.
Yeah, and that was one of the complaints in CS too. Like the metas could get stale, and it could get really stale for the viewers as well as the players. So with that said, let's move on to the VOD review tool. Okay, so this is really cool because I don't think I've done a show where we've sort of integrated a VOD review tool like this. And this is going to be really cool also because this is a bit of proprietary software that we're going to be looking at that the Cloud9 team uses to review their VODs and to get better. And something that everybody should be doing. Reviewing VODs, you can get all kinds of insights to help you improve your game or learn about how other people are playing the game. And quick fun tidbits as well is that this Valorant VOD review system, this tool is powered by Microsoft. This was born and prototyped out of a Cloud9 hackathon. So that's also really cool. I mean, I don't really know necessarily what goes on at hackathons because I'm not someone that does a lot of coding or any coding for that matter. I don't know if that's if you guys are coders at all, but really cool to see that we got something like this from a hackathon and the community kind of trying to create some cool stuff for esports. So with that said, Mel, Alexis, Xeppaa, I know you just kind of jumped on. Have you guys been using this a lot? How has it been for you?
This is the first time I'm seeing it, so never for
Sweet.
me.
This is
Nice, we're
something I
learning
think
together.
the coaches on our team, because we have 2 coaches, I think this is something mostly they use. This is also my first time actually seeing it.
Awesome. All right. Well, so there's lots of things we can do with this. I actually already picked out a match, from Masters to keep it on topic, which is going to be version 1 versus Nuturn. We already talked about both of those teams a little bit, and this is one of I think most people, there's some kind of a consensus here. I did ask people on Twitter as well, what was the most exciting matchup in game from Masters, and a lot of people said this matchup between version 1 and Nuturn. Both teams played really, really well. But I selected a few rounds that I want to get some thoughts from everybody on. And the first round I'm going to be looking into, I can just quickly use the timeline here to jump straight to the round that I want. It's going to be a round 5. And in this round, just to kind of set the scene, it's effectively a half buy. And Nuturn are on this kind of janky half buy with a couple sheriffs and like a saved phantom. And so I'm going to play the action here. And what I'm going to be looking for is I want to get the reactions from everybody here as to what should happen, right? So we have this kind of default spread across the map coming from Nuturn. With this buy, they're looking for picks, looking for an opportunity, and they get Solo manages to get a kill on Catwalk because Penny was kind of in a deep position here on Cat. So from this point, how this is open to everybody. After seeing this position, if you're in Nuturn's shoes, what are you thinking to try to actually capitalize on this and convert this into a round win?
Well, right now it's 5v4. I can't tell. Is that somebody on the bomb? Or is that a smoke
Yeah,
or something?
that's
Okay, well,
yeah.
yeah, so everybody's spread out. There's one mid, one B main, one up pizza, one at their spawn basically, and one's up cat. He got the pick off cat, so I mean, you can't really just run up and commit A at this point because everybody's so spread out. So I mean, the best thing you can do after getting a pick is trying to make it where you're committing up A, and catch B1 rotating back to A or something because the Jet's up mid. So after just hiding there, trying to fake out that they're going A, you catch rotations, get another kill, and after there, you just maybe regroup and hit a site together.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Jet mid, getting a kill here is going to change the round 100%. After he gets a pick on one of the rotators, it's gonna be really hard for V1 to come back from that, even though they have the worst weapons on Nuturn's side. It's definitely gonna be a bit more difficult in a 3v5.
How do we feel about having Penny going sort of peeking it, because we don't want to be lazy in our sort of analysis here. We don't want to say that just because Penny died and got caught alone by a sheriff that was a bad move. I presume the intention was to get some information. The question would be, was that move necessary for version 1?
Well, it definitely looks like they do not have any map control at all when Penny died, or at least before Penny died. Everyone's really out of the mix. We have one guy heaven, one guy behind their wall cat, and one B main, and one's CT. So I mean, Penny being a Jet, and plus it's eco for them on the other team, and he has a phantom. So I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing, but it's just unlucky that he got one deed. So there's really nothing you can do about it.
Definitely. We'll play the rest out here because I do want to go through a few rounds. And already I think it's pretty clear as well. If you ask the right kind of questions when you're reviewing VODs, it's you can get some interesting answers. And we can see that
Oh, you
there
had a
was a
phantom
following kill
too?
and picked up the phantom,
What?
and it's all gone very wrong from this point forward. Right. With that said, time to jump into the next round. I wish I could just stay on these rounds and talk about them forever. I could definitely do that. Make this hours and hours long, this show. But we'll go straight to the following round actually. So after Nuturn convert that Thrifty, in this round, we're going to see the beginning to the default. So I'll just set the scene a little bit here. Because firstly, something that Nuturn have been doing on the attack is they've been showing sort of the same opening again and again, and it often starts with this drone coming in from Lakia. They have a 1-2-2 type of setup. One person looking after one extremity, B main, and similarly some pressure with 2 players on A main, and then they sort of develop into mid slowly off of the back of it. So they're kind of pushing version 1's control back a little bit, but then what we get is this Viper pit. So firstly, when you're playing and you see a Viper's pit on defense like this, like, is there like an element of mind games? How do you approach this in terms of calling on the attack when you see this Viper's pit?
It's honestly just go to the other side. You never like, I mean, at least for us, like we never really want to like run into the Viper pit, especially like he has control of A main. There's really not much you can do unless you have a drone and you just drone through the pit and then you tag him. Then that's like the only thing, or like a recon dart. But other than that, if you don't have that, then there's really no point just running in and try to kill him.
Yeah, your options are pretty limited. It's kind of like use Sova util or even like Sky util, like the dog, or you can like try and crunch. Like I think they're going up cat to try and crunch on this Viper ult. But otherwise, if you don't kind of have that control to crunch on the Viper, you kind of just have to dip.
Yeah, there's like only really like 4 options. Like number 1, literally just go to the other site and just like take your chances on like hitting a good split on like where the stack site's going to be, because teams just don't play 3 people where the Viper ult is just a waste of spread. A second option would be like going in with the drone, but a lot of Vipers, like their ults like at the pro level aren't just like so straightforward. It's like, oh, you can clear them out with the drone. Like there's like bubbles they can hide in, and they could like hide from you. They could easily just have like a lot of fadeaway places. So sometimes like a drone is just not enough. The third one would be crunching from both sides. A really popular one is like on binds. If the Viper ult's long, it's actually pretty easy to crunch the Viper ult. If you go out hookah and if you explode out hookah, it's pretty easy to like get that Viper in a really claustrophobic, uncomfortable spot where you're coming in from front and behind. But obviously it's a bit harder here. They have to like take cat control, and like this ult's honestly really good. I would not call it crunch against this ulti. And like the fourth one would be abusing the fact that when a Viper ults, they kind of deny themselves info because they're just sitting there into like a huge like green space. They have no idea if you're actually coming in main or not. And so what a lot of teams have been doing in scrims, at least against us, is like they'll do like a lot of like sound baiting and sound faking, and then they'll just hit the other side. Like we're actually like scared, like dude, they're about to hit. They'll fake with like a Razor or something. And since I don't actually have info on whether they're in front of me or not, it's like I can't actually count the numbers. So if I hear a Razor, I'm just gonna call for a rotate, and then they just hit the other side. Those are really like the only options you have with a Viper ult. And most of the times you just have to respect it, because coming up with these solutions in like the middle of the round is just rough.
And I guess this is like one of the fun things too, is because version 1, I mean, they have no experience against Nuturn. Maybe they've seen them play, but like, do you really know how they're going to react to this? Because as you say, like you guys wouldn't call a crunch or a split against this, but that's exactly what Nuturn did. And I think it's kind of interesting too, because maybe it was just that they were really gambling on the fact that they expect after the Vipers pick pops, that lack of info in A main, as well as the wall they saw in mid, that's going to mean that there's a rotation timing. And if they go super fast, they'll be able to like get a 4 or 5 versus 1 or something. And I'll just play it out and we can see how it goes, because they are maniacs. They are going through this.
Yes, I love to see it though. Oh, the Killjoy. See,
Yeah.
okay, I honestly didn't even know they had Killjoy LT. Killjoy was like perfect counter to Viper. Like perfect. I should have noticed that. See, I need to put my calling. How did I not notice that macro?
I actually made notes on this, and I actually have that, I think, and I didn't actually mention this. So I feel like it's reflects worse on me here, but yeah, that seems like a great answer. And that kind of ult economy battle is a really interesting one too. Like being the first to drop the ult, especially like. Do you think that the Killjoy ult is better or the Viper's ult is better? Because let's say like if you have a Viper's pit and you think you can drop that and that's gonna force a response to nullify it with a Killjoy ult, is that something that teams think about like that? The ult economy? Like
that's a good question, honestly. I've definitely like that's such a good question. I can't even come up with the answer to that, because I'll see a Viper ulti like on Icebox, and if I have Killjoy ult, like I will actually like, even if it's a deeper ult, I will burn my ulti for that, just to like get that, because I don't want them to feel like, dude, I have Viper ult, it's a round win because I'm just gonna go here and they're gonna hard avoid me. Like a lot of Vipers will think that, and so I will just straight up expend my Viper ults to trade that and then like get the space.
If we can go back to the round and watch like Jammy's point of view after the Killjoy ult, I don't know what he was doing. He after the Killjoy ult went down, he just like ran towards A main and just like threw it around.
No way. Let me see.
I feel like he was confused because they like cut noise after the KGO. Like they weren't running in with it. I think he was
He's
like
actually
lost.
standing there.
He mollies, he runs back, he waits for the Killjoy, and
Right.
then he like panics and like I don't know, he just runs towards the ult and just like I don't know what he was doing.
Well, he just ran
He
it.
just
No, he
started
actually is
just
running
started
it down.
shooting.
Wait.
I don't know what he's doing.
Wait,
Oh,
he
I
actually just
respect it.
started running it down.
All I'm saying is my boy Whippy wouldn't be doing that, but
Dang.
just gonna love you, James.
Ooh, calling them out like that. All right. All right. Okay. Well, I'll take that as a moment to go to the next round. And I think I'm doing it in a really boring fashion right now. I actually did notes for like so many rounds, but we're doing 5, 6, 7. So we're doing the following rounds now. And let's see. So this I have noted as a good adaptation from version 1. So sort of identifying sort of the default opening from Nuturn on the attack and understanding now how to be aggressive on the defense. So we kind of see Penny here to begin with going a bit aggressive with the operator has that deep angle in mid. And version 1 also pressuring heavily towards B main as well. And at this point, I'm going to pause very quickly right before we see the Odin lining up. If you're stacked up in this way and you've got no control except obviously there's like one on the lurk, I think that's Solo on the Killjoy there that's lurking towards A main and just has a turret there making audio cues and so on. So it doesn't look completely like a B rush. What are you feeling in this position? Because as the team that's attacking you and you're looking for B main pressure, but do you feel like you can ever like come out of this because you've given up a lot of map control?
I definitely think you can come out of this. I mean, it's pretty obvious that I think they want to try to do some sort of B pop, but they realize like the V1 is like putting a lot of util on like stopping or like finding out what they're trying to do. And I mean, it's always good to pull like their team's util and like know how many players are there. So it's like, I think in this game you can cancel way more than you would in CS because pulling their enemies' util on like any of these round like mid round, it's always a good thing. And you don't always have to like commit so much. I feel like in this game especially.
Yeah, they still have
Yeah,
a lot
hard
of time.
agree.
They can go back for sure. They definitely have time to do it, and they definitely have the util still because they haven't really done much, so they can definitely cancel here.
Xeppaa,
Okay.
do you think reclearing in this game is like way easier than in CS? Because I feel like with like the recon and like the dart, like there's so much easier
Oh,
util to like
100%.
face check in front of you.
Reclearing in this game is just like so much easier. I mean, like, cause you don't really have to like throw your body most of the time, cause you have Sky, Flash, Dog, Sylva's util. Like, there's so many things you can do to like push back or just reclear something without like actually putting a body in there.
I think that probably adds to it too, the fact that you can just like cancel and stuff so much easier because it's gonna be like it's not gonna be that hard to go back and reclear.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that there's like the suggestion of the reclear and like going back and then they go back into B main again. So it is quite an interesting approach. I do agree. It does feel like a lot more exciting in that sense in terms of the fact that you have more options than in CS where sometimes you can get pretty committed. Although that said, Penny's still deep in mid here, so
Okay,
he's able to have that map control to punish. So
you kind of just ran into his crosshair.
they've had enough.
I mean, there's really not really much they can do unless just run around back to T-spawn or something.
All right, I'll move quickly to the next one then as well. So we're going to round 9, and in this round, there's a few things that I have on my notes to kind of discuss. 3 main points. The first, although we are seeing a replay here on the VOD, the first thing is that we're going to see in a moment is about retake setups, and this is something I think definitely viewers should be who love watching Valorant should be kind of mindful of. What is the defensive formation? What are they giving up? What are they trying to take? And what does that mean in terms of their goals? And we're also getting a tactical here as well. So I'm going to be brave. I'm going to try to skip forward on the VOD here. And ooh, it's a long one. I love filling when I'm commentating these.
This looks so fun.
All right. Okay. So we're getting Penny just double up drafting there, seeing nothing. And version 1, so they've started to get aggressive now. And it's really interesting that this has been a complete switch up because initially they're quite passive against Nuturn's default. And then what we see here, I'm going to pause it, is we can see on the minimap that there's no one playing site. So it's a retake setup. So if you're on the attack and you're going against a retake setup, what are you thinking about to try to actually win this round? Because it feels like the retake if you have that tree position, which currently is being held by version 1, and they have the lockdown too, it feels like that's very difficult to deal with.
Well, for me, it's like they're planning on going to A, so once they go A, they find out that the turret's there and they're probably gonna see mollies going down, but no one on site. I'm not sure if Zosis has a Killjoy ult, but I mean, that's like something you would expect if they're playing retake, especially on a site where Killjoy plays all his things and he's not playing the site. So I mean, I think the first thing you expect is after planting the bomb or something is that they're gonna place a Killjoy ult and probably like just run it down with the ult or something.
Yeah, they have Killjoy, Sova, Jet Knives, and Vanity's ult. That's the first thing I would look at is like if playing retake on the site, but they know what they're gonna do like during the retake. So I think it's good Nuturn's coming in from mid because I think they have a good idea of that they need to like the hotspot here is gonna be in Garden. They have to fight for Garden to win this round, like in the end game. Because if they don't, they're just gonna lose to the Killjoy ulti.
And in this position, when you've got like the 4 ults against the 2 as well, we talked about ult economy as again, and does it, even though you have the advantage if you're version 1, like do you feel like you want to over invest? Because and how do you judge that? Is that something that you just have to like just trust people, just to have that sense of I'm going to use this ult and I'll just call it? Because I feel like it can't be a team decision when things are really going down. Obviously, the lockdown can be before you go in, but then it feels quite reactive when you're watching the game at least. Like how is it when you're playing? Because that seems like an edge that you could gain, but it feels like so hard to know how to do that.
Well, I think it's really good in their situation. Like if they do have like 4 ults and they're up 6-2 right now, and if they use all 4 ults on their side of the team on the defense side and they win and they're up 7-2, I think it's really good for them because I think the next round after this they're probably gonna be like broke and they're gonna be on pistols and ecoing. So I mean definitely like burning maybe all 4 ults on this round is like really good for them. And if they win, it's like perfect. But if they lose, then obviously like, that's the gamble you take after using 4 ults. I
I
mean,
think
if
it's
you if
totally
you're
worth.
using 4 ults, then I mean you should be winning the round. So
Yeah, exactly. If not, that's kind of sus. It's like, oh my god,
yeah.
dude. If we saved one of those, else we could have won next round, and we used 4 and didn't win this round. Yikes! I think I totally agree too. Like, especially if it's a round like they're gonna go broke, and you're maintaining your momentum and your lead in this game, it's 100% worth to burn all 4. Like, if they're broke after, and you keep like what they're gonna be like up 7-2, they win the ego 8-2. 100% worth it. And then by the next gun round, if like in this game, ult economy can snowball so fast because if you have one person that's popping off and farming the orbs, they'll have another ult in like 3 rounds. That's like you win the gun round, you win the eco after, and if you might have an ult on that round, like Phoenix's especially will have so many ults, and Sage
God.
especially will get that up. What the hell?
Yeah, do you want to see
So
that
yeah,
again?
it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it.
So, wait, did he just ult for no reason? The Sova?
Wait,
I
let
don't
me
know.
see.
I'll go back again. This is the whole, like when I watched this, I was like, this retake. This is because I was
You're
like
lucky he has
building it
ult.
up, like all these ults.
I'm sure there's a reason why he ulted, but I mean, I'm like most of the time like they should be using it for the KJ ult because it's
Yeah,
kind
you
of
gotta
expected
save
they're gonna use
that.
it. But he kind of just burned it for no reason,
Let me see.
unless he missed it somehow.
Oh no, he burned it for no reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't even pop the KJ ult yet.
Dude.
and then Penny should get that kill 9 out of 10 times too,
Dude,
but it's unlikely.
I'm a Killjoy main. When I hear the Sova ult go off and I have my ult, I'm so blessed. Or I hear like a missed shock dart, I'm like, we're running this round. Like, it's so annoying to get countered like that. But when I hear them use it too early, that makes me so happy because it's like it's just a round win at that point.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this round as well because like it just got so out of hand.
These clutches up. What?
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. But one last round. I'm gonna jump straight to round 15. Right. Okay. Is this the round I wanted? Let me see. I think it is. Yeah. Okay. So this round, we kind of talked about, thinking like every player being able to kind of think for themselves, and just seeing the replays here again. Thinking for themselves, by the way, can't wait until we get actual demos in Valorant. Cannot wait.
Dude.
But we talked about, players thinking for themselves and sort of understanding how to punish things on the fly. And I thought that this was a pretty cool round because it seemed like to me that you have version 1 here, they drone up mid. It seems like they kind of figure out based on the setup that Nuturn are kind of committing their defense more into B main. And it looks like they punish this. So I'll let you guys kind of discuss away as you see these scenes unfold. But this really felt like version 1 just spotted the setup and were like, oh, we know that we can just crunch into straight through market and just trap these players in B main, that we just outplayed them positionally here.
Let's see. I can see Nuturn at least has B main for like the crunch. He's getting info on whether or not they can actually crunch on him. Oh no. Taking that fight with the Spectre is rough. I feel like that was a big mistake from him though, to be honest. Wow. If you go down in like a 2x like that just makes it so hard for Sova, dude, because he's the one that has like the mollies on site. If anything, if you want to make the info play, you have Sova, does he not have Dart, Drone? Or if anything, have him face check, because all of your stall util at B just goes down as a result. Because Solo took that fight and died.
Do we think it was greedy? Was that a greedy move?
Can you play it back again?
Yep.
I'm just trying to think, because I've been the killjoy in that position, and I've been the one greedy for info, and I'm the one that's died, and then I just leave Annie on site, and I see her fighting World War III getting crunched on, so...
Ooh, that was a big flick from Effie's as well.
If he just does it like 2 seconds later, it's good, I feel, because he was about to turn around too.
Because Lakia has recon right now. If he wanted that same info, you could have gotten it legit 3 seconds later too.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like they need to recon that instead, because that just... Their whole setup is just... Oh, I can't swear, but... It's in the gutter, mate. It's in the gutter. Let's just say that. I'm sorry, DDK.
You know
that was
what?
a horrible accent. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna let that one pass for now. Just don't do it again. Yeah. So if you have any other points to make whilst we're on this round, we can close it up and move things forward, because we spent a long time on this. I feel like I've really milked it. So, anyone want to say anything else about some of these rounds, or anything you want to communicate about this VOD reviewing tool?
Nothing from me.
Masters, dude. I can't wait for the next one.
Nice. Well, so with that said, then, I think it's really interesting. Again, like studying yourself, I think is such a good way to improve. I think people don't do it enough. Like, I always like to try to get some advice when I'm talking to pros on a show like this. Like, when you're trying to get better and you're reviewing yourself, if you each gave me like one tip, one thing that you think is helpful for someone that is trying to get better, whether they're an aspiring pro or just want to get rank up in matchmaking, what should you do or be thinking about when you're watching your own demos or others?
Well, personally for me, I never really watched demos on myself. I was always playing the game constantly, either DMing, pugging, like playing league matches or scrims or, all these things like that. But like watching demos for me, I never like found it like helpful. I mean, because I personally never did it, but it's definitely like when I'm playing the game, it's more like being confident in like what I want to do, and like like if I'm confident like a play and like it doesn't work out in the end, I just think to myself like why it didn't work, or constantly like fixing my game like in my own head. And then I mean it also helps because you can't be playing pugs like all the time, because that definitely doesn't help our rank games. I mean you have to find a team and you have to play in a team environment more than pugging, because pugging is not going to help you at the end of the day, but it definitely helps you with your mechanics and things like that.
I think for me personally, what I've done, at least recently, that I've like been on a team to improve is like when I want to pick up a new agent or I want to get really good at something, I'll first start by like watching a lot of pro VODs. So for example, like I recently picked up Phoenix, so I've been watching like a bunch of Scream VODs and Sick VODs and trying to like pick up on their tendencies and how they use their utility, and then I'll play Phoenix and then I'll record my POV and I'll kind of compare it to what they're doing and try and pick up on the mistakes that I'm making. And try and like fix them as soon as possible, so I can kind of skip that whole like trial and error period where I'm just like playing and messing up. I'll just try and fix it faster by watching myself make the mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Like go into VOD review either of yourself or like looking at like a team, like a macro level, like what defaults are they doing. Go into it with like a purpose. Don't just go into it like, okay, I'm just gonna get better at watching myself. Like, no, you need to like put aside some objectives. Like, okay, do you want to fix your utility usage? Do you want to like play better off your teammates? Are you taking like the right duels? Are you like getting like really efficient lurks? Like, what is it that you actually want to improve on? What do you want to look at yourself? And if you don't know what to ask yourself, at that point, it's like kind of like I think you just need to like watch like a pro VOD and see what they do, and then compare it to yourself and be like, okay, here are some gaps in my knowledge and in my gameplay that I'm noticing from watching other pros play.
Yeah, I love all of those points, and I think that's such a good question as well. Like, that for the person who doesn't know what to ask themselves, you can ask, what do other people do well? Because you definitely have watched people, and you be like, well, that guy's good at this, or he's good at that, whatever it is. And now you've got something that you can contrast with what you're doing, and maybe you suck at that thing, and there's your answer. And moving forward, I want to start talking about. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself here because we do have an awesome segment coming up, the AT&T Crucial Moments segment here. And we're going to start with the fast segment, the fast video. This is going to be an outrageous, I think, totally outrageous play from Xeppaa. I think most people have probably seen this disgusting play. 11-1 is the scoreline at the top as well. This was a really insane match, I have to say, because Cloud9 was so close to beating Sentinels in the previous map, Haven. It was such a close game. And had that been a W, obviously this is complete dominance. What was this, like 13-1, I think it was on split? So that would have been Cloud9 Blue, hitting up that Iceland land. So that would have been pretty sick. So instead it wasn't to be. But moving into the next one, we have the reliable plays. This is more about team play. So we can see Leaf is actually pressuring A here after a very convincing display. Yeah, just making sure that defensive rotation goes towards A. The Cosmic Divide comes up. Leaf gets the kill to really sell it, and then it's the rotation with the Cosmic Divide kind of denying all that info. I thought this was awesome.
Yeah, that's the great use of Astral to fake that out, because they can't hear unless they're like a lobby side. But obviously, if you're CT, you want to like group CT to start like the fast retake. But they could not hear anything that was going on. That was great.
It was definitely a good place from Mitch too, being able to lurk up B after like selling the fake at A, and he's probably the one who called him to come back to B after they just ran up A.
Yeah, and all of the post plant as well is really excellent to see. And I think we're going to get another good situation here in terms of the post plant. There's actually a retake coming in for the secure. This is the securing of the win here. And this is going to be just Cloud9 doing everything right here. Leaf, Floppy, and Xeppaa isolating 1v1s. Once again, you've got that Cosmic Divide, which kind of messes up the post plant. You can see Som has to push past it and take such a risky fight, still wins it, but all of the other frags are going to be spots where Cloud9 have actually isolated the fights together.
Oh, dude, that was crazy. Dude, Floppy just busted in there and got a 3K. That was insane, actually.
Yo, Floppy's a troll.
Yeah, awesome stuff there. I think one thing's for certain. I think Cloud9 Blue, like, such a surprising I think series of games going into Masters or rather sorry the Challengers finals. I don't think people expected such good performances out of Cloud9 Blue with that roster, and I've got to say that's going to bring me into this tidbit now, because obviously Xeppaa, you're going to be jumping onto the team. You haven't been playing very long, but you're going to be taking Poise's spot. So how does that feel?
I mean, it definitely feels great to play the game. I mean, kind of, at first, just, like I was grinding rank to get a feel for the game. That's why I wasn't playing the first half. I mean, definitely feels good to actually play with the team now.
Is it going to be weird slotting in for Poise? I know that typically we've got Poise on the dual list, but I feel like I don't know if that's kind of where you're at, like where your roles are at, but I feel like it's got to feel good playing with Leaf. And if you are going to be on the dual list, I feel like there's a thing to be had there. There's chemistry.
Definitely. I mean, playing for a Poison spot, I mean, it does suck that like I'm filling in for somebody else that definitely deserves a spot on any other great team. I think I'm really grateful for the team having like faith in me, like learning the game, picking up the game, since I was coming from CS. But playing duelist with Leaf, it's definitely like a good time. Learning from Leaf, especially right now, because Leaf, I think he's top 3 duelist in the game, and and he's proved it. And learning a lot from him right now, it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, if anyone here is like familiar with European Valorant, Leaf kind of reminds me of Xeppaa a little bit, just insanely strong, insanely impactful Raze player. I mean, Alexis and Mel, like, what do you think about, having Xeppaa slotting into the team over Poise? Are you guys excited for this?
Dude, I've heard so many good things about you guys and Chaos. I'm so excited to see this iteration of the roster, honestly.
I'm kind of biased because I'm the Chaos fangirl, but I definitely have like good vibes from Xeppaa. I'm dating his ex teammate, so I have like all the inside details about him as a teammate.
Oh, dang.
And yeah,
Nice.
I know he's gonna be a great fit for the team for sure.
How's the roles fit in terms of like agents and stuff like that? Obviously, that's a big change coming in from CS. Has that been a natural change for you? Are you feeling like someone that's going to be pretty specialized, or do you feel like it's going to be easy for you to kind of plug and play with most things?
For me, I think I can be really like a plug and play type of player, but I mean, I am just playing duelist at the moment. I mean, it's kind of, hard to switching everything like from playing duelist to sentinels or like, playing initiators. But I think it's good for me right now just to, focus on duelists and, playing for Poison Spy right now.
Awesome. I mean, I'm super excited to see it. I mean, honestly, Cloud9 Blue did such a good job in the previous tournaments, like leading up to Masters 2. I really felt like there's such a strong chance that they would actually be there. So exciting stuff going into the future for Cloud9 Blue. One thing, I think this is again like an open question. What would be the part of the game for Cloud9 Blue to sort of take it to the next level, to actually to have made it to Masters, to have beat Sentinels and so on?
It's definitely like the individual skills. I think right now, or at least for them before, they had like a lot of like micromanaged. I think when Relics was playing at the time before Floppy, and I think that's why they decided to play with Floppy and myself. It's just being able to actually think for yourself and playing individually and just counting. You're always making the right plays. And I think me and Ricky have that coming from CS, at least playing from the top level too. And that's why I think, we're currently playing right now. It's just I think our fundamentals right now are really good coming from CS. And I think that's why they're taking a chance on us.
And I think one one last question before I move on to talking a little bit about Cloud9 White as well, is I know you've been scrimming with the team a little bit. Like, what's that been like so far in terms of that experience?
Wait, I'm sorry. I just zoned out. Were you talking to me?
It's okay. It's like I'm reading your storybook with the ASMR. I was just saying the scrims that you've
Okay.
played so far. I know you've had some scrim experience with the lineup. How's that experience been going? Is that been just really smooth, or is it again?
I think it's been very steadily going uphill. I think the first time I scrimmed was like a month and a half ago, and it was terrible because I just had switched to the game, and the first two scrims we played were against Sentinels and Envy. So I mean, I had a terrible time. But then coming back like 2 weeks ago, we played Envy scrimming, and I did really good. And I mean, it's been an uphill since then.
Well, I'm super looking forward to it. It's going to be really awesome to see you guys performing in the future. And Mel and Alexis, you guys have been dominating in the Game Changers tournaments. It seems like in that area, it's just been it looks so easy. And I think within that Game Changers tournament, what is it that you think that makes the difference for your team versus the other teams?
I mean, I think one thing is that we've just been together for longer than any of these teams. We've literally been together since beta, since the game came out. So we definitely have the most experience out of all the teams that are playing. We also just like love each other. We have like the best team chemistry. We criticize each other every day and like try and make each other better constantly. So I think that's what sets us apart.
I also have a question, females. I personally have long hair, and I don't know how you guys play with your hair covering your ears with your headset on top, and then your
Oh,
hair
I
in your
don't.
face. Oh,
I
okay.
don't. We
We
put it
don't.
back. It's just for the
Okay.
camera.
I was
It's
about to
just for
say.
the camera,
Okay.
straight
Makes
up.
makes sense.
Yeah, we definitely don't.
Revealing
the
our
real
secrets
questions.
live right now. That's crazy.
Man, I'd never thought about that. Man, long hair problems.
Yeah, I was like, dude, because I'm like, I put my hair once like down, like covering my ears and my headset, like I couldn't hear anything. I was like, I don't know how these people do it.
No, we don't.
Didn't you just cut your hair the other day?
I
think I saw
trimmed
something
it.
on Twitter about it. It was
I
like
trimmed
the
it.
like this long or something, dude. It's like a ruler.
It's my hair is still in the middle of my back, so that tells you how long it was. Like
That's
I cut
crazy.
like more than 12 inches of my hair.
Entering a new era. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's like a market there, surely, there's like a product for a budding entrepreneur, but actually I think the product's called like earbuds. I guess that's the solution, right? But either way, yeah, it's with Cloud9 White, as you say, guys have been together for so long, great chemistry, and I think that's like really like clear to see from the outside as well. But in terms of like looking to improve things, I know you had top 16 recently and with NSG with the NSG Summer Tournament. So you guys have been grinding the games. What's sort of the next step in terms of improving the team and things to work on?
Dude, it is so funny you bring up the top 16, dude, because we've played in like the NSG Opens like every week the past month. We get out of groups, we're in the playoffs, and then we keep like falling in the first round, dude. It's like we got to get past that hurdle every time. If you look in the history, it's happened like 3-4 times now, and we just can't get past the hurdle of like getting the first round of playoffs. But we've been qualifying for playoffs. At this point, we're just really improving on like making sure we're really like efficient with the setups we're running. We're trying out some different comps than from before, obviously, since Katie had left. And we're still kind of adjusting to a new style of play without Katie. And I think just honestly just cleaning up and polishing that, and that's really what's going to get us past the first round curse, honestly.
And it's always like the teams that almost win too. Like,
Dude,
always.
it's an actual curse because the teams that beat us, dude, they actually go so deep in the tournament. I'm like, if we had won that, we would be in such a good place. But it's so close.
Oh man, I feel the frustration. Is
Yeah.
is that has that frustration been like getting to people, or is it sort of like you're taking it on the chin, just like walking it off and taking it in good spirits?
It's in good spirits because we're learning so much from like losing just barely. It'll be like a 13-11, and we're learning so much from these games that, I mean, if you lose twice if you don't learn from it. So you just gotta keep it up and just keep working on your mistakes and improving.
Is that like scrimming between like Cloud9 White and Blue? Do you guys do that at all, or how's that dynamic?
No, they're scared of us, dude. I swear, like, I don't know why, but like they haven't. But I think y'all are just scared. Like, I know that we're gonna qualify for Berlin automatically, but y'all don't have to be scared.
I mean, ever since I started playing the team, no, we haven't scrimmed them. But I mean, yeah, they tell me some stories that
What? No, we scrimmed
Stories,
teams,
I hear.
but not Cloud9
Say
Blue
more.
yet.
they're just very, very talented individual.
Talk about the SOT game, bro. I'm done.
Well, I mean, going into obviously like Berlin, I guess is quite far away. Obviously, that's the goal for everybody. Do we? I want to get some before we kind of wind things down here and close things out, because I know we've got to the top of the hour. I'm probably running over already. I actually don't know how much time I can run over with. I love to run over with shows as much as possible. But I will want to understand the thoughts on sort of, do you guys think there's like a dark horse team out there that's going to kind of shock and surprise us? Do you want to make any bold predictions going into the next few months of competition?
G2. I'm thinking
G2.
G2, dude. I want to see them pop off so bad. They're like the TSM of Europe. I swear to God. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, by the way. I hope that doesn't come off the wrong way. But we saw them like dominate EU for like the longest, and then they've just been kind of like radio silent the past couple months. But they've been making a lot of roster changes. I want to see Mixwell popping off. I want to see Pit popping off. I want to see Codamenta popping off. Like, I just really want to see them succeed.
Nice. Anybody else?
No, I got no teams. Everybody just a lot of Wash CS players playing this game.
Yeah.
Damn.
Ooh, that is an interesting one, because some of them have been making some. I feel like Finesse has surprised me the most. He came to this game like a demon, and it's just, I think he's done such a great job. But yeah, and I felt like his career was done. The same thing with Scream. I was like, my God, Scream is like the best player in Europe most of the time. Like it's really surprising, like what people have done coming from CS. Do you think that's because people get bored in CS, and like is that what it's about?
I think it's just people not being able to adapt as like time goes on. I mean, there's a lot of players who's very one-dimensional, and that's like the downfall, and just not being able to learn to adapt to just playing.
I was even gonna ask, like, Xeppaa, like, when you say like watch CS players, it's mostly a joke, but do you
Yeah.
feel like the downfalls these players had, the downfall these
Not
players
joking.
had in CS, is it gonna come back in Valorant? You think? Like, do you think the same weaknesses they have, it's gonna come to Valorant, it's gonna catch up eventually, or is it like they're new players now, like they've reinvented themselves?
It's
in
hard to
this
say
game?
because there's definitely more to the game that help like agents. You know, like each of them have like their own abilities, so it's hard to say. But I mean, looking from that point of view, I mean, I'd say it might happen, but not to like every single one of them. But I feel like some of these players in the scene right now, yeah, I think from a year from now, a lot of them are not going to be where they are now.
All right. Well, there's the prediction. I wanted a prediction. I think I just got it. Right, and it is time to close the show. As much as I'd love to just keep talking endlessly about Valorant with you guys, it's been so much fun. I do want to remind everybody who is watching right now, all of the viewers, there is the opportunity by typing #Puma or #, I guess, if we're in America now, #Puma in chat for a chance to win $100 Puma gift card. This is only valid to residents in the US aged 18 and over, but hashtag, #, whatever it is, just so long as it's a Puma, after it, you'll have a chance to win $100 Puma gift card. So make sure to do that and just spam it. Spam all of the chat, load up. We know you love to do that. So with that said, that will bring us to a close for this episode of The Nines by AT&T with Mel, Alexis, and Xeppaa, and myself. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast, and we'll see you on the next one.